Mofengwa leading the delegation from the IFP. We will then be able to take some questions with regards to the process of what must go on. We welcome very much and thank you, friends, for your support and your presence here. And it is most appreciated. We've been overwhelmed with the messages of support and prayers that we've received from all people from all walks of life, so we're very grateful. We will take a round of questions, and Ms. Sheila Duresh, who is our communications officer at the Bishops' Conference, will be assisting us in this regard.
Thank you very much, Father Lawrence. So I'll ask you to please put your hand up, introduce yourself, which media house you are with, and whom is your question addressed to. We may start.
Okay, Mark Cadman from RTV in the UK. Pope Francis spent a lot of time hearing about Africa, but many people in Africa are fairly conservative. Is there a debate about the level of conservatism or liberalism in the church with regards to Africa, and where will this go in the future?
One of the bishops recently described the church to me as a tree, Catholic, universal, holding various viewpoints, various diversities. A number of the flashpoint issues that came out of the West, America, Europe, did not find resonance in Africa because it contradicted some of the traditional values to be found in Africa. I think it is important that we recognize that one viewpoint is not necessarily a universal viewpoint. So one idea cannot easily just be transplanted and placed into another culture without there being respect for what is happening within that culture. And I think this is sometimes where we see some of the conflict, some of the diversity of the church. And I think that as cultures change, as cultures grow, as world wisdom is discerned, therefore we begin to find common ground. That doesn't necessarily mean that what is the kind of popular opinion of any one time or any one place overpowers everything else. But I think there needs to be more respect for the diversity, the varied cultures, and the varied experiences of people around the world. It's not just one culture that says how the church should be. I always remember some of the priests that we studied with in Rome from predominantly the East, said, what is said in the West, you say freely, but we pay for it in sometimes violence against the church. So it really means that what we campaign for and what I say must be correct, whether it be bioethics, there was the whole issue of surrogacy. We need to remember that 80% of the world doesn't even have primary health care. And so this issue is quite a small issue affecting a sliver of people, sadly, but people who've got money, who can afford it. But the rest can't get primary health care. So, we need to keep constantly that balance in mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Father Yu. Remember, we'll be ending at 11 o'clock. So if you have questions, please ask them now. Please go ahead. And then you, and then
Ron Friedrich here from Network 24. I was hoping you could maybe just give us some clarity on the election process now going forward. People can easily read up on it, but once the cardinals are there, what are some of the stuff that is considered when electing and the process that works? And then secondly, I don't know if you can speak for the cardinal, but is there any interest from his side to become the next pope? Is there something that we can expect South Africa to be the next pope?
Right, every cardinal who goes into the conclave has the potential to be elected pope. The tradition would be that nobody goes in wanting to be Pope. So if I'm going to speak on his behalf, I would say that he is going in there hoping to elect a Pope, not to be elected. The conclave really is the process of electing the Pope. Now, if we look back in history, we see that the conclaves were really exciting times. And there was a lot of political and social and economic intrigue, because the various European parties were trying to get a pope elected who would favor their nation. In recent years, the conclave is, what can I say, a lot more surgical. But some of the traditions are still kept. The tradition of when the cardinals go into conclave, it is only them, they are sealed in. If one reads about some of the earlier conclaves, each cardinal could bring 3 servants with him. They were cooking, food was being delivered by the barrel full. Ambassadors were climbing through windows and they were knocking holes in the walls. So what we have today basically is a meeting and a voting in secret without any outside interference. So it leaves the person to vote from their point of view and from their conscience. Now, unless a pope is elected in the first round of voting, there is a number of rounds. So it does not mean that if I have voted for X on this round, I have to vote for him on the next round. Because there is the swing and the mood and the discernment of who do we really want. And maybe in the conversations amongst themselves, and that's why these meetings before, there'll be planning meetings for the funeral, there'll be planning meetings for the conclave, but part of the meeting, the purpose of the meeting for the cardinals is to get to know each other. So I can hear your voice, I can hear your voice. Maybe at the beginning I think, well, okay, that's somebody worth watching. And then I find somebody else. So it really is, it's shrouded in mystery, but it actually just is a process. And I think, we must not look too hard at conspiracy theories, at people trying to hijack it, at, microphones under the chairs. All of this is a Dan Brown movie. And that film Conclave gave a very, very reasonable image of a conclave, the human dynamics, as well as the inspiration of God's Spirit.
Thank you, Father Yu. I'm going to ask you to keep the answers brief, because I'd like to give the others a chance to speak afterwards. Let's go to, please introduce yourself and who you are asking the question.
Good morning, all. My name is Veronica Kokash from Eyewitness News. SG, I wanted to ask about I read about something called fat pope, thin pope, which is not meant literally, but in relation to conservative pope versus a liberal one. And given how progressive Pope Francis was held to be, is there fear that those names may be reversed with the election of a more conservative pope? And do you think we're ready for that?
I've been told to be quick. The Holy Father that is elected will be a gift to the church and to the world. He will be, we believe as Catholics, because this process of discernment takes place under God's guidance and in the power of his Spirit, he will be the man for our time. He will be the man that will take the church and speak to the world. Take the church forward and speak to the world. If we have a look, Pope John Paul II was a man very much of his time. He taught what we should believe. Pope Benedict followed him, a completely different character, and his whole thrust is, why do we believe it? Pope Francis was another pope who came following Benedict and said, how do we believe? How do we live our faith? whether the Pope is from the north or the south or the east or the west. The Church will welcome that Pope. It is not wise to put out limitations on who or who cannot be elected, because sometimes we fancy somebody without knowing the full story. So let's leave it up to God.
Thank you. Michelle?
Thank you, Madam Shopper, the Associated Press. I have two questions, one for the SG and one for the Cardinal. If you could perhaps give us some color on, what does the Pope and his legacy mean for South Africa and for, the political machinations of the country? And then secondly, Cardinal, we know that Africa is one of the few places where Catholicism is actually still growing. What kind of values would the next Pope need to embody in order for him to find resonance on the continent? Would he need to be leaning more towards a more conservative viewpoint, or should we see a Pope that continues this liberal trajectory? Thank you.
Just clarity, there are three general secretaries here. The whole three. So we have to be a bit specific. Also, Cardinal Brislin has already left. This is the General Secretary for the Bishops' Conference. The first question was for the Secretary General of the ANC.
Thank you, Father. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much for the question, and also let me thank the Church for giving us this opportunity. We stand here with a great humility and privilege to share our condolences. And in answering your question, Pope Francis will be remembered not only as the head of the Catholic Church, but as a revolutionary spiritual force who spoke to the conscience of humanity. Throughout his papacy, he embodied the values of compassion, justice, and solidarity with the poor, values that resonate deeply with everyone with conscience. From the Vatican to the furthest margins of society, Pope Francis walked with the excluded, spoke for the voiceless, and challenged the powerful to put humanity above greed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now ask our other guests to just say a few words, as we did not have time after us, so this is your time. Oh, the second question, I beg your pardon. The second question.
I think often the conflict between liberal and conservative is one that is overplayed for political purposes. And I think it doesn't take into account the diversity of opinion and that is in the church. Pope Francis did not change church teaching. I'm not sure that he would want to be painted liberal or conservative. What he wanted to do was to walk a line between church teaching and the experience of people. Church teaching holds up the highest ideal before the church and the world. Ideals of peace, ideals of goodness, ideals of honesty. But the lived experience of people is sometimes very, very different. And what he wanted us to do, I think, was to first meet the person, where they're at. It's no good throwing laws and regulations at people when you don't necessarily profoundly understand the situation. So it was about listening, it was about opening one's heart, and it was helping people to become better people, and helping Catholics, Christians, and all people of faith to live their religious truths as best they could. And that goes beyond names and labels.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Father Yu. We'll start here on my right.
No, thank you very much. I would want to, on behalf of the IFP, say Pope Francis was the example and template of Ubuntu. He was a beacon of compassion, humility, and unwavering faith, and his papacy was marked by a tireless commitment to peace and justice and the upliftment of the poor. His voice resonated not only with the walls of the Vatican, but across the world, transcending borders, religions, and political divides. This brought a unique and deeply human perspective to the leadership of the Church, one that championed inclusivity, mercy, and dignity for all. His legacy will continue to inspire generations to come, and in this moment of loss, we join you in celebrating his life and emulating his example. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of the Vatican Council of Churches, we continue to work together with our brothers and sisters in the Catholic family as we express our own condolences to the loss of such a giant within the faith. It is our view that in the life of Pope Francis, the Church has offered, as it often does throughout history, the greatness of the gospel of Christ, the power of loving courageously, the power of seeking justice without any deference to power, the commitment to love the unlovable, the commitment to raise to the fore the faces and the experiences of those that society wishes to forget. And in that instance, he reflects to us the Jesus Christ of Galilee, who walked around the streets of Jerusalem, reminding those in Jerusalem that the power of God's love is not found in the temples that they want us to be confined in, but is found in feeding the poor, in elevating the cries of those who are abused, in making sure that the prisoners themselves know that freedom is nearby. And we're looking at that example from Pope Francis as inspiration to what we can be as church and also who we can be as a world. It will be a deep, deep, deep disappointment if we only take this moment to celebrate without being inspired to transform the world. The SACC walks with everybody and Catholic brothers and sisters in doing this work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thanks also to you, members of the media.
Sheila, I'd just like to say something there.
Okay, please go ahead.
I just would like to go back to that question that you asked about what Pope Francis would say to Africa, to South Africa. If we look at what he had to say to world leaders, it was a simple message. As leaders in politics, in science, in business, you are there to serve the common good. You are there to see that those who are left out of political, social, and economic systems are included. That there is work towards the eradication of poverty, to the provision of decent employment for all people. And he would call on leadership, business, social, society, religious, political, to put aside differences in order to search for a bigger vision. It's not about winning. It's not about being the most popular, but it is about being of service to those who need it. In other words, service delivery in our South African context. He would have called for that, for the betterment of society, for service for the common good.
Thank you so much, Father Yu. I'd like now to call the Cathedral Administrator, Father Lawrence, just to wrap things up, and also to say thank you to you, members of the media, for those who have requested individual interviews. Father Yu, the Secretary General, is still here, and the other members here, depending on their availability, will also be here for further one-on-one interviews. But for now, Father Lawrence, please.
Ours is a very easy job. We've been overwhelmed by the support we have received during this time, and the prayers and the messages we've received from all members of society. We ask, of course, that all these reflections that have been brought before us about the life and the ministry of Pope Francis, we ask that they inspire us to try and transform society and transform wherever we are called to lead, no matter how small and no matter how big. We offer also our prayers for all the cardinals who are making their way to Rome and all the pilgrims who were there for other activities like the canonization of Carlo Acutis, which is now not going to take place but postponed, and for a peaceful time, a peaceful transition of the church. And the greatest gift I think we can give Pope Francis is the words that are uttered mostly at Christmas time. Peace on earth and to all people of goodwill. Thank you.